Welcome to the drill press module. Within this module, I will identify the main parts, go over setup procedures, and I will demonstrate how to operate the drill press in a safe and correct manner. We will first start off with identifying some of the main parts of the machine that you will normally use during the course of any drill press operation. We will first start off with the on and off switch. As you can imagine, the green button is for starting the machine and the red button is for turning the machine off. To the right of the switches, we have the quill feed lever. The quill feed lever enables the operator to feed the chuck and drill bit assembly into the stock. Below the quill feed lever, we have the chuck, which clamps to and holds your drill bit. Below the chuck is the drill press table. All this is supported by the main pillar, which is a cylindrical piece of steel onto which everything is attached. Finally, we have the base that supports the entire machine and is bolted to the shop floor. Now that we know some of the parts of the drill press, we will start off by installing a twist drill into the chuck. To insert the drill bit, open the jaws of the chuck by spinning the outer handle counterclockwise until the shank of the drill bit just fits inside. A twist drill has a shank portion which consists of a solid cylindrical segment which is used to clamp around within the chuck, and the rest of the drill bit has a spiral groove cut throughout the length of the drill bit. This is where the cutting action happens. Once the shank of the drill bit has been inserted into the chuck, turn the outer handle of the chuck clockwise until hand tight. Following this step, take your chuck key and notice that around the output shaft of the chuck key there are several splines. These splines mesh with the splines found around the circumference of the chuck and are meant to enable the operator to exert a large force on the chuck jaws. In turn, the chuck jaws clamp tightly around the shank of the drill bit. Notice that you have to use the chuck key at 3 different points around the circumference of the chuck. This ensures that all 3 jaws are exerting an adequate amount of force around the drill bit in order to prevent it from coming loose. After using the chuck key, it is very important to remove the key from the chuck, as it can be easily forgotten in the chuck and thrown violently. In order to prevent this mistake from happening, always have 2 fingers on the handle so that the chuck key is automatically removed with your hand when you are done tightening. Once everything has been set up, it is very important that you do not go directly to drilling, as you may end up getting hurt if the bit has not been installed correctly. For this reason, before use, you must start the machine in order to check if your setup is correct. If your drill bit is spinning true, meaning not wobbling while it is spinning, then you are set up correctly and can proceed to your next step. Now that you have set up the machine, it is time to introduce some clamping tools. The first clamp is the parallel clamp, or also known as the Jorgensen clamp. As one of the names insinuates, they work best if the 2 parallel jaws are kept parallel while applying force to your project. Use the 2 handles to get the proper adjustment needed by turning clockwise or counterclockwise. This clamp is very tricky to use at first, but becomes a favorite once you become familiar with its operation. The next clamp is called a C-clamp, and it looks like the letter C. It basically consists of a frame and a threaded rod with a handle on one end and a maneuverable flat on the other. As you tighten the handle, the distance between the frame and the rod decreases until it clamps your pieces together. The last clamping mechanism that you will need to know is the vise. It consists of a fixed jaw which does not move and an adjustable jaw which you can manipulate. You would place your workpiece in between the 2 jaws and wind the adjustable jaw's handle clockwise in order that you exert a clamping force on your workpiece. This ensures that it does not move while drilling. Once this step has been completed, you are finally ready to take your C-clamps in this scenario and clamp down the vise to the drill press table. After doing this, make sure you test your setup to ensure that it is stationary and will not move. Now we are all set up to operate the machine. A safety concern to point out about the quill feed lever is that it is spring loaded, so once you grab the handle and rotate the mechanism, it naturally wants to go back to its home position. This means if you let it go, it will rapidly spin and hit you. In order to avoid this, always maintain contact with the handle so that once you are done with your procedure, you can walk it up in a controlled fashion. This will prevent you from getting injured. When operating the machine, you want to apply downward force to the quill feed lever and then relax, repeating this step over and over until you drill through your material. Trying to drill through in one pass is discouraged as this can overwhelm the drill bit and cause it to break. The other reason is that you will overheat the cutting tip and once again cause the bit to break. Once you are done drilling your hole, ensure that the chuck has completely stopped moving before you clean the wood shards. Remember to never use your hands to clean the little chips as they can give you a painful sliver. Make a habit of using one of the many sharp brushes for cleaning your workpiece surface. The last thing I wanted to point out was the destruction on the base of the vise and the drill press table top. Notice these partially drilled holes are all as a result of the drill bit going through the workpiece and then hitting the vise or the table. In order to prevent this, you can either place a sacrificial piece of wood underneath your workpiece or line up the drill bit such that once it clears your workpiece, it exits into the clearance hole. In this manner, there is no damage done to any part of the machine and it will provide years of service. And that, in the simplest terms, is how you operate a drill press.